Welcome to Psychology at Work, Group 16's Communication and Conflict Resolution presentation. In this presentation, we'll begin with some introductions on communication and conflict resolution, as well as their impacts in workplace, following by comparing three relevant theories, with a case study to link theories into practice. Some highlight key points and suggestions will also be provided at the end of the presentation. Communication is simply the act of transferring information from sender to receiver through written or verbal format. Conflict arises when people have a serious disagreement or argument over opinions. It can ignite from the smallest word or action and can lead to destructive responses and behaviors. In order to maintain a smooth-running company, it is essential to minimize and eliminate conflicts through various conflict resolution methods. Effective communication plays a significant role in resolving conflicts. Workplace conflict is inevitable. A recent Harvard study has shown that 48% of people intentionally decrease their work effort after a disrespectful or impolite encounter with a coworker, and a similar study conducted has also proved the significant negative impacts of workplace conflict. This evidence implies the fact that conflict resolution strategies are extremely important in maintaining a healthy organization. Therefore, in this presentation, we'll be focusing on communications and conflict resolution theories.
The cooperation model was developed by Morton Deutsch. This model operates by analyzing the nature of a dispute and the goals of the disputing parties, and subsequently analyzes two orientations of resolution: cooperative and competitive. The cooperative style evokes an atmosphere of trust between the two disputing parties, and can often lead to a mutually beneficial settlement. Deutsch states that a cooperative orientation between two parties can facilitate constructive resolution of the conflict with both parties participating in an honest and respectful manner. The competitive style creates a win-lose situation between the parties, whereby one party achieves their goal in the dispute and the other doesn't. This orientation is thought to intensify relations between the parties and can be potentially destructive. The Morton Deutsch and Robert Krauss trucking game was developed to test the importance of effective and cooperative communication in interpersonal bargaining. The hypothetical experiment consists of two trucking companies who have to make a shipment as quickly as possible. Each company has a long and a short route to the destination. However, the short route, which is 50% faster than the long route, can only be taken by one truck at a time. Furthermore, each company controls a gate at each end of the short route. In order for both companies to deliver their shipments, the companies have to cooperate with each other to coordinate the gates and the use of the short route. However, the researchers proved that when the participants were given a weapon, in this case control of the gate, the majority of time was spent threatening and competing with each other, delaying their shipments. Deutsch and Krauss concluded that people's competitiveness can overthrow effective communication, thus highlighting the importance of the cooperative orientation and the destructiveness of the competitive orientation in conflict resolution.
The theory of principled negotiation is a cooperative conflict approach established by Roger Fisher and William Ury in the 1981 book Getting to Yes. It outlines 4 principles for effective negotiation. First, separate individuals from the problem to defuse tension and obtain a clearer picture. Second, focus on interests of individuals, not positions. This better manages the direction and transmission of communication. Third, explore alternatives and discuss various options before coming to an agreement for mutual gains. And finally, use an objective criterion. This approach rejects the notion that conflict is inherently a win-lose situation to allow better outcomes for both parties. However, it is often difficult to reach a common standard. The model does not take into account human needs and emotion, whereby different positions of power could disrupt harmonious negotiation. Therefore, a best alternative to a negotiated agreement, or BATNA, is suggested. Through exploring Bayou Steel's employee strikes in 1993, we can identify the strengths and weaknesses of this theory. The firm attempted to resolve 90% of its contract issues through a win-win negotiation approach. This defied the second principle of effective negotiation. The interests of employees were not effectively addressed and communicated, which led the union to believe that the approach was a strategy to undermine employees' positions. This situation demonstrates that while in theory negotiations would have gone smoother had management better followed the principles, there is always potential for human needs and emotion to cloud judgment and create bias in a principled negotiation.
A model commonly applied to communication situations is Laswell's model of communication. It stipulates that communication contains the following 5 elements. First, who is communicating? Second, what is being communicated? Third, which channel is being utilized to conduct the communication? Fourth, whom is being communicated to? And finally, what the effect of communication has. Communication has 3 key purposes. 1. To survey the environment. 2. To correlate components of society. 3. To culturally transmit between generations. As with all theory, this model comes with advantages and disadvantages. Advantages include simplicity, being easily applicable, and considering effect. Disadvantages include neglecting feedback, noise, and being linear. In July 2014, a study was carried out on the communication about childhood obesity on the social media platform Twitter to examine the influence of social media on public health information. The method used to carry out the research involved first gathering hashtags on childhood obesity-related topics. Following this, the users of the tweets would be coded in respective categories such as health focus, sector, and etc. Finally, the tweeter's characteristics would be analysed via descriptive stats, network descriptive stats, and visualization and network modeling. Evidently, the study assumed that Twitter users' communication process obeyed the constituent parts of Laswell's model of communication, such as characteristics of tweeters, content of childhood obesity tweets, and the numbers and types of followers. Overall, the results of the study revealed that there was evidence on health information of Twitter users being credible. Thus, there is evidence to suggest that Laswell's model of communication is viable.
The following conversation occurred between 2 members online while completing a group project. Looking at Zoe's response to Carla, it is clear that she has interpreted the tone of Carla's message as aggressive and accusatory. As a result, this exchange has created conflict between the two, disrupting the normal working progress of the group project. To resolve this conflict, basic fundamentals of the Morton-Deutsch cooperation model and the Roger Fisher and William Ury principled negotiation can be applied. Using the theory of principled negotiation, Zoe and Carla should remove themselves from this communicative platform in order to discuss the underlying problem. This enables them to relieve tension and grasp a better understanding of each other. Furthermore, the interests of both parties should be clearly expressed, as it is clear that a conflict has arisen from misinterpretation of Carla's comment, whereby Zoe feels as though her position is being undermined. If after explicit discussion of both parties' views, there is still no common understanding, further discussion should be undertaken to explore avenues of mutual gains. It is important to note that with this approach, both Zoe and Carla should remain objective and unbiased at all times. Alternatively, a third party may need to monitor. Additionally, using the cooperation model, both Zoe and Carla should engage in effective communication to rectify the conflict. This communication should be done in an honest and respectful manner, whereby both parties will recognize that the conflict must be overcome by means of coordination and cooperation. Should Zoe and Carla engage in a competitive manner whereby both parties insist that they are in the right, then the relationship will potentially become destructive, further disrupting the group work. In order to avoid this type of conflict in the future, Laswell's model of communication could be applied. In this example, the medium of Facebook Messenger was used by the parties. This was a basic visual channel of communication and did not allow for verbal or body language elements to be incorporated. A better medium for communication may be a video or face-to-face conversation where these elements could be incorporated to deliver a more complete message and a greater effect.
To conclude, it is fairly evident that communication and conflict resolution are fundamental aspects of a workplace environment. This is because the occurrence of conflict is inevitable due to miscommunication and differing perspectives. A case study and empirical evidence were analysed in this presentation to support the following theoretical models. Laswell's model of communication focuses on 5 elements: who is communicating, what is being communicated, which channel is being utilised, whom is being communicated to, and what effect the communication has. The Morton-Deutsch cooperation model analyzes the nature and goals of the disputing parties before either a cooperative or competitive approach is applied. The Roger Fisher and William Ury principled negotiation model explores the principles of effective negotiation, which explores separating individuals from the problem, focusing on the interests, and exploring alternatives. Ultimately, these models can enable effective communication within a workplace, eliminate or reduce potential conflicts, and assist in the resolution of arising conflict.